And I'm lying back and it's just a beautiful starry night, so quiet, super happy to be there. Go to bed and about 4 a.m., 3 a.m., my eyes just bolt open. Like I am 100% alert and my heart is in my throat. I'm so disorientated. I'm like, why am I so awake? Like, is it a man? What's going on? Am I being attacked? And there were three, or at least three, lions that were calling to each other, surrounding my tent.
Welcome to Seek Travel Ride, where we share the stories and experiences of people taking amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries, or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Hi, it's Bella here. I'm taking a little summer break from releasing new episodes at the moment, but while I hit pause, I'm resharing some of my favourites from the show. This week is my original chat with Steph Devery, an absolute legend. I first released her episode in February 2024. Now, Steph spent close to 3 years on the road cycling from Europe all the way to Cape Town, and it's definitely been one of the most memorable journeys that I've featured on the podcast. Also, in some exciting news, I recently caught up with Steph again for a brand new podcast interview, and I'm going to be sharing that when the show returns. In the meantime, I hope you love hearing Steph's story again, and I'm excited to bring you her fresh adventures soon. Hello, I'm your host, Bella Malloy, and I'm very excited to introduce my guest for today's episode of Seek Travel Ride, Steph Devery. In June 2021, Steph resigned from her job, loaded up her touring bike, affectionately called Cliffy, and set off from Gibraltar. She'd no set plans or time frames, but instead all the possibilities of touring routes laid out ahead of her. In that first 6 months, she'd make her way across Europe to Sweden. She then took a job in the Alps for the winter season, where a subsequent unfortunate knee injury would require her to take some time off from adventures and undertake rehab. But by no means was this journey of hers over. In fact, to some degree, you could say Steph was just getting warmed up and getting started. With her knee rehabbed, Steph once again saddled up on her bike and continued her bicycle tour through Europe. While in the Balkans, she befriended a stray dog called Monty who joined her for 1,300 kilometres of this trip, all the way to Greece. Then, with Monty handed over to its new owners in Thessaloniki, she continued south, destination Africa. Steph's goal was to reach the very southern tip at the Cape of Good Hope. What transpired would be a fully immersive, slow travel experience. She made her way through Egypt, Jordan and Saudi Arabia, and then crossed over into Sudan. She was in Khartoum when war unfortunately broke out and was thankfully taken in by a very kind and loving local family before being evacuated to France 10 days later by the military, albeit without many of her possessions or her bike, Cliffy. 2 months would pass by with Steph gathering up the equipment required to be able to continue on with her journey. And 2 years on from the beginning of that time, and now equipped with her new bike Lenny, she arrived in Zanzibar and restarted her tour. The next 7 months, she continued to cycle south, fully immersed in the African experience. From wildlife encounters, local hospitality, she gained so many insights into cultures, such as those of the Maasai, all the while pedaling on the road less travelled, living out a nomadic life, camping under a sea of stars, being drenched by huge rainstorms, as well as being covered in sweat and African dust. It was a truly sensory experience. All up, it would be 2 years and 7 months of living this lifestyle before she rolled out those final few kilometres and arrived at the Cape of Good Hope, South Africa. 21,500 kilometres, 40 countries, endless experiences. To say I'm excited is an understatement. I cannot wait to dig into this incredible adventure and have Steph share the insights and learnings from undertaking such a transformative trip. Steph Devery, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bella. I'm happy to be here.
Ooh, I'm very excited, Steph. There is so much I could look to unpack with you during our chat today. My gosh, how many experiences has this trip built up for you?
Yeah, it's going to be a long session.
Settle in, everyone, and just be captivated with the feelings of wanderlust that will unfold. But, Steph, a question which I start my show with, and I ask this of all my guests, is do you remember the very first bike you ever rode?
Oh, the first one. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I do know I was a training wheels kid, like a long, slow learner. Was I was not a sporty little kid. I think it took me a fair while to get the reins.
Training wheels on for maybe longer than maybe your mum and dad would think. But did you ride your bike much growing up in Australia at all?
Yeah, I think I had a pretty typical, like, Australian childhood. We were always outside, either running around on bikes. We'd strap them to the back of the car and take them on holiday when we were going camping, and yeah, but I wasn't in a cycling family as such, but yeah, we rode our bikes.
Yeah, nice. So it was sort of just like mucking around or the odd occasional few kilometre trip on a holiday somewhere. Because
Yeah.
you grew up in Tasmania?
I know, grew up in Sydney.
I don't know where I got Tassie from. I'm not sure. Have you lived there or am I thinking of something totally wrong?
No, my best friend lives there, and that's kind of my proxy house in Australia, so that's where all my address and my mail that's where I go, so yeah, you probably got it from there.
Ah, very, very cool. Sydney's pretty cool too, though. Beach life, did that feature much growing up?
Yeah, the beach life, and we'd always go camping. We did lots of big road trips along the East Coast, so no, we were definitely an outdoorsy family. There's plenty to explore around Sydney.
Wow. And then I guess, from one big city, Sydney, to fast forward, I mentioned you're a paramedic living in London. London is a massive metropolis of a city.
Yeah.
How long were you in London for?
I was there for about a year and a half. I had some pretty poor timing and arrived 2 months before the pandemic broke out. So I worked much harder than I thought I'd be working, I think.
My goodness, yeah. Like a lot of people that I've interviewed before, actually, a fair few of my guests rekindled a love of riding bikes because of the pandemic and because of lockdowns and less people on the roads and things like that. But in a way, Steph, you would have been total opposite. You wouldn't have had time for riding bikes much during the pandemic. You would have been working a fair bit.
Yeah, I was working pretty flat chat, and I moved from Sydney as a paramedic up to, Terrigal, which is kind of a very slow beach town, very chill, and then I moved straight into, yeah, the beast that is London. I rode a bike to and from work, but yeah, the down days are pretty tired.
I wondered, just looking at the timings of your trip, setting off there in 2021, 18 months since landing in London, but 16 of them during COVID times. I wanted to know, was it the catalyst for you to pack things up and actually set off on your bike in the first place?
Yeah, and it wasn't, which is surprising because I think a lot of people think it was. I had planned it for many years. I think I started dreaming about it in 2018, and I always knew I was gonna do a grand adventure, and I didn't quite know what it was, and I think 2018, thoughts started brewing, adventures started brewing. I was wanting to go a bit further afield and challenge myself. And I quickly realized that I think the bike is like the perfect tool for a big, grand, human powered adventure. And then I started, you start looking at maps and then you think, oh, what if I can cycle around Australia? And you go, oh, that's crazy, that's crazy. And you go, what if I cycle around the world? And Australia isn't, it's only like 3 inches long. It's not that crazy if you look at a map.
Yeah, a way to make a country look small is just to consider the whole world and then just look at that country
Yeah,
again. I
exactly.
love it. That's a good little hack.
And, like, quite legitimately, the reason why I went from north to south was because it all looks downhill on a map. Like, there's no no sort of rhyme or reason for it. But I thought London was a good stepping stone. I had just become a paramedic really and worked for a year and a half in Australia, so I still wanted to sort of further this career path. But I thought London was a good stepping stone. I kind of sold everything I owned in Australia, but it wasn't this huge go out and now I've got nothing. It was like, okay, I'm going to London. And then from London, I'm going to quit and go on this big bike journey. And I think the idea of leaving and being on the bike was a saving grace during the really stressful time of working through the pandemic. I knew that freedom was around the corner. Like if the pandemic just settled down and borders opened up and it left, I'd be on my way. Sorry, yeah, I think the pandemic, the moment I got on my bike, like life has never been sweeter. It was just made it all the more freeing. Like I felt like I had this massive achievement on day one, just getting away from it all. So the pandemic and working in London really, I think, highlighted these beautiful, yeah, feelings of freedom once I got on the bike.
I love hearing that. Like from day one, it just felt beautiful. And also just hearing that you'd had this dream for years. That's what got you through those hard times as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
All this time to think about it, I have to ask the cheeky question then, like, setting off on a long journey, no set time frame, no set route plan. Maybe you had like a fluid structure, but nothing, no schedule day to day by any measure, I imagine. What do you pack for a trip that's timeless?
Yeah, you pack ridiculous amounts of things, especially if you've never cycled before. You pack a ridiculous amount of things that you will never use in your life because you have no idea, and just slowly over months, you grieve this item and finally get rid of it. I set off the original plan was the north of Norway to the south of South Africa. It was like Cape to Cape, which I had thought that I made up, like, incredibly embarrassing. I was like, "Wow, I've discovered a new route," and it's like a very well-traveled route.
Yeah, Nordcap, yeah.
Yeah, but I had set off with everything packed for Africa, like, years before I would get there, so I had a and things that I would never ever use, like, I distinctly remember I had a 10-liter shower with me. I I don't even know how insane that is, but I had no
Imagine
idea.
carrying 10 kilos of water to fill it.
I know, it's absurd, like, a 10-liter shower's gotta be, like, 20 minutes long.
Oh my God, did you actually use it though? Like even once?
No, I never ever opened it ever, like, it was absurd.
Oh, wow, a 10-litre shower. Actually, well then, let's go the other way. Was there a luxury piece of item that you did take with you, like non-essential but essential to for the mojo? Or
Yeah, everyone has a little secret one. I'm trying to think of mine. I had an absurd just trying to think. No, I really towards the end I really skimmed down to not much. I had a lot of tools and a lot of spare parts. And I think because I was by myself, yeah, that stuff was heavy. But and I'm not sure. That's not really a luxury though, is it? I had my laptop to write. That's a pretty crazy luxury. That's heavy. I didn't have any fancy socks, or I don't yeah, it was pretty utilitarian by the end.
a few people I know will take like a little thing of nail polish or something just to make them feel less gritty or something special like
Yeah,
that.
I gave up deodorant, like, 2 days in. I
Oh
was
yeah,
really
and then like embrace nature, right?
yeah, yeah.
Can I ask, just a hint, you brought your laptop to write things down. Do we all get to one day look forward to perhaps the writings and a story or of something of this trip, perhaps? Oh gosh, I really hope so.
I'm really hoping too. I'm really, really hoping. It's a huge story to tell, and I have so like, just the amount of stories that I have is almost overwhelming to keep in my own mind. I would absolutely love to. It's just the reality of a very itchy-footed person sitting down and focusing for this long to write something comprehensive out. But I would love to. I think it's a story that needs to be told.
I know certainly a few of my guests, and I've done it myself on, my gosh, I haven't taken trips anywhere near as long as you, but the longest one I've had is like a month. But I've started getting to the stage of journaling on that trip, maybe not daily, but even just the smallest thing. And you forget about it, and then randomly you'll pick it up and go, oh my gosh, I remember that. Did you
Yeah.
have like a routine of journaling like for your trip, or was it sporadic?
It kinda related to how tired I was. Sort of sometimes you would just be absolutely knackered and lie down and be like, "Death is so close, like, I can't even lift my limbs anymore," you know? So, not on those days, but then, I think, yeah, after a few days off of rest, or if I'm feeling a bit particularly inspired, yeah, I would write, and towards the end, I once I started to think maybe this book would really come to fruition, I really tried to stay dedicated to writing certain events down or people that I met and bringing more context to remember.
Steph, I've been following your journey now for it feels like forever. And through your Instagram posts, I've been mesmerized by your stories. But I wonder, even like just the happenstance of flicking back through your Instagram stuff, you'll remind yourself of events. And that's another way that
Yeah,
you've journaled that
yeah.
photographically with a few words as well. There's some cool things. I looked back and when I knew I was going to interview you, going through that sort of back catalogue, being your pseudo stalker in a non creepy way.
Non-creepy, non-creepy.
But there were things, gosh, I can't remember which African country it was, but there was a photo of you with like the school principal or something. And it was like, one day you go to school, but I actually camped at the school. I was like, wow, what an experience that would have been.
Yeah, I was in Zimbabwe in a tiny town called Pagejo, just out of Harare. Oh my gosh, that was such a sweet little morning. I was, yeah, you can see I've just got this massive smile on my face. It's thousands and thousands of these little memories, but it's just gorgeous. Yeah, I was camping a lot in schools in Zimbabwe or through Africa. It's just like a perfect place. It's got a flat paddock, water, toilets, everything you want. But I slept in and I woke up and I heard all these whispers like, she's coming, she's coming. And unzipped, popped my head out, and there would have been, yeah, 200 kids staring back at me, just like so excited. The beast is out of her cave, what's going on? But it's so beautiful and like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, wow. And I mean, I must say, I didn't want to get to Africa straight away because we just skipped over like almost half of your trip. But I also remember, following your journey. I remember there were moments where I might not have been having a great time, and then I'd all of a sudden something had come up, and it was a story of yours on Instagram with riding along and these kids just being so happy and running along with you. And I feel like it's almost like a quintessential African experience now.
Yeah, you would never be able to get through Africa without the kids running beside you, laughing and smiling and giggling with them. It's not possible.
Would that would have been energizing at times too? Then I imagine.
Yeah, it was one of the things people warned me against, like, going to Africa, like, "Oh, they'll surround you and, like, you'll be harassed." But I loved it, like, once you understand that they're kids, they might ask for biscuits or sweeties or something, but they're also just, like, entertained by you and you're entertained by them, like, it's all an exciting random thing that's happening. There's a big, strange traveler on a giant bike, like, coming through your town. So when you start playing games or, like, singing songs and playing with them, it gets super funny, just more people join, and it just becomes, like, quite an absurd, trans-cultural experience that we're all just having fun, but no one really understands each other, but it's just beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we live in an amazing age where we have technology when you can access it that can translate for us and, give us the gift of being able to maybe go beyond body language sometimes if we need to.
Yeah.
Did you start picking up when you were traveling, say, for example, through Tanzania or Kenya or something? Like, did you pick up some Swahili or like
Yeah.
did you have some phrases to use in your back pocket there?
Yeah, always. I think that's my first day of any country, you kinda try and get a SIM card, you try and get some cash, and you try and learn some phrases. And you learn like, "Hello, thank you, welcome," it's a few numbers and things like that, but I always try and learn like a very random phrase, because when you say something unknown, the whole community just bursts out laughing, like, "What? What have how do you know that sentence?"
I'm going to put you on the spot. It's going to feel so silly, but what would your random phrase be that you could remember?
Oh my gosh. No, it's too on the spot. There's really too many languages because even within the 40 countries, there's many languages within the regions.
It would be. You know what's something that's random? When I was working in Australia, my boss for a period of time, shout out to you, Tony, he spent a lot of time actually in Africa and he was teaching himself Swahili because he's just got this big passion for Africa now with a dream of actually going over there. And, he's helped a lot of communities out and he goes back regularly for this. I remember we'd have many late afternoon where he'd teach me some Swahili. And I was just thinking, I can remember I was like, way, poa poa. I think that's like, hello,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
are you? Or
But it's kind of like a call and response, you have to learn it, and then it's this like, yeah, it's beautiful welcoming.
way, poa poa. Yeah. And then I think another one was it Asante Sana? I was like, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And while we go through Bella's language rememberings, the weird one that I remember, and I always thought it was semi like if I was riding in Africa, I think it was barabara, which I think, depending on how you said it, meant like dirt road. But
Okay,
anyway,
well, that's that's important.
we'll go through.
I have remembered one just as we've been chatting. It's in the Nama language, which is like the north of Namibia, and once you start to get into this region, they have these beautiful the clicking languages that are very tied with Africa, but it was "Ngain Tesuare." And if I said that to a local and they were Nama, it would be like, "What? You know, what is this white woman doing speaking our clicking language?" And it's
Wow, so hang
something,
on, you click.
yeah, you got "Ngain Tesuare." Yeah. It took me ages. I was cycling along for probably hundreds of kilometers trying to get this click proper, you know? But I had this, like, gorgeous moment. It was a housekeeper in a home where I was being hosted, and she was Nama, and I was asking, like, "Can you teach me some of your culture?" And we had this super funny maybe hour. She was waiting out the rain to go home, and we were just buckled over laughing, like, me trying to click, and she was so enthusiastic. She was like, "Almost, almost." I was like, "It's not it at all," but, like, yeah, I loved it. Even though it's just a phrase and it has all this ongoing, like, laughter, the moment that I learned it as well was super special.
Oh, so, so beautiful.
Yeah.
When you're doing a trip like this, Steph, and you literally are spending hours at a time riding, like obviously you have those beautiful moments where, you're coming through a new town or a village, and if you're in Africa, maybe you've got children surrounding you, but even in Europe, you're being amazed at the scenery sort of changing and the culture sort of shifting as you make your way across the continent as well. I always think you also have this gift of time that you've given to yourself to think and to observe and to be present. Do you find that's what I'm saying? Is that something that really resonates with you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the absolute most special things of a long distance trip is you really have time, and it's incredible what you think of, just things are in the back recesses of your brain, and they pop up and you go, gosh, I haven't thought about that person or this thing for so long, but yeah, it's incredible. And I think especially after just being worked so hard in during COVID in London and having very intense experiences. The first 6 months at least were incredible for me to be able to just breathe and to have this time to really process what happened and a whole bunch of things. You really get to think and also appreciate the little things that you're seeing, things that maybe you'd be distracted otherwise if you were traveling a different means or not there at all and not quite see. Even just being able to pick the weather or the direction of the wind or how the clouds are forming in the afternoon, it's huge appreciation for time. Time is an incredible gift to give yourself.
Yeah, and you also start seeing patterns in different ways too. And I don't mean patterns like shapes and stuff, but maybe rhythms of, certain things. Something I observed generally on my bike, especially early mornings, is like there's a saying that's a wives' tale, but it's true. It's like red sky morning, sailor's warning, red sky night, sailor's delight. And for me, that held true. If ever there was an amazing sky in the morning, I knew bad weather was on the way.
Yeah, yeah.
But conversely, if there was a red flaming sky at nighttime, I knew it was going to be beautiful, clear, nothing too bad on the way. It was going to be a calm evening.
Yeah.
Does that resonate? Someone who spent so many nights in a tent under the stars, did you find that rang true for you as well?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I did, and I found that it's quite a primal lifestyle, especially when you're really out in the wilderness and you sort of stocked up on food and water and you just go. So sort of more in the Middle East, in the deserts, and then through wider territories in Africa, you become quite primal. Like, I was really in tune to the weather and the sky, and, like, I knew the time just based on the shadow that I would be on the road with my bike, and
Wow.
yeah, I really could smell the rain well before it hit. I was like, "Okay, rain's coming." Like, it was really cool. You become more of an animal rather than a civilized human.
I mentioned it in my intro because when I was reflecting back on what you've experienced, it's something that struck me. Traveling in this manner is so sensory of an experience because it's not just what you're visually seeing, but it's what you're hearing and it's what you're feeling and it's what you're smelling.
Absolutely.
Sometimes what you're tasting. You mentioned the smell of rain there, or the
Yeah.
feel of the wind and which direction it's coming from. Well, being so in tune, I don't know. I'm not sure that I've ever really focused on where my shadow is and taken the time of the day. Like,
No, I think you've gotta think all your thoughts, and then you reach this like, "Oh, that's all the thoughts I have," and then you really start observing what's around you. It took me a long, long time.
you must be such a pro now at finding wild camping spots, I imagine, too.
I am a pro, but I think I'm also just When you're first set out, say an hour before sunset, and you're looking for a camp, you're like, okay, I want a beautiful flat spot, totally covered, sheltered from the wind, maybe some water flowing for a swim. You have all these like high criteria. And sort of by the end of it, you're like, I'll take any slanted slope, rocky, I don't care at all. So I don't know I don't know whether I'm a professional or my criteria bar is really low. I can sleep anywhere now, that spot, that big hole is good enough, you know?
I feel like you've stumbled upon an unknown hidden skill to be able to sleep anywhere. Normally, I sometimes, ask people, I always feel it's such a superficial question. Oh, tell me about your most magic wild camping spot. And to speak with someone like to you, Steph, 2 years, 7 months on the road to try and condense to one spot sounds so superficial. But I'm going to go superficial the other way. Like, what was the most ridiculous place you
Oh.
just found to be sleeping? Just pick one. You must have hundreds.
I have a few grim spots. I absolutely have some seriously grim places. Oh my gosh, to choose a grim one. I think one that's just shot to the top of my mind, where I can't believe it actually is just out of San Sebastian in the north of Spain, probably not so far from your home. But I was totally knackered and I was just now cycling along, just done. I want to camp. All my criteria is out the window. I will take, a small ditch on the side of the road. I think it was 11 p.m. now, like it's summer, but the sun had set. I had my head torch on. I'm totaled. And I was like, okay, the next driveway, I'm just going to go down it. I'm just going down it. I don't care anymore. And I found this paddock, which was honest to God, it must have been 45 degrees steep. It was absurd. I was like, yep, this'll do. It's grass. I don't care. And so I literally lay my bike down and then pitched below me and then pitched the tent on top of the bike so the bike could stop me sliding down the hill.
Yeah, you know that you're waking up at your feet when you're on a pitch like that,
Yeah,
aren't you?
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I propped myself up with all my clothes and I was like, "I'm done." Didn't cook dinner, fell asleep, and say, like, 3 hours later, I woke up really itchy. "Oh, what's going on?" And you kind of you ignore it, and then I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" Turn my head torch on. I was covered head to toe in ticks, head to toe. I would have had
Oh
50 odd
no.
ticks that I don't even know where I picked them up, just covered in them, and it was just oh, I was just wishing for the sweet relief of death, like, I'm done.
At least as a paramedic, you sort of know how to deal with it.
Yeah,
Far
I
out.
know, it
Yeah,
was grim.
wow.
It was a grim one.
I mean, San Sebastian, you're in the Basque country there. Having ridden through it personally, I would describe it as roller coaster country. Like it was never
Yes,
flat anywhere wherever I was. It's beautiful.
beautiful and
It's always up or always down.
yeah,
So you were obviously camping on the up or the down. Like,
who
yeah.
knows? I was camping in a terrible it was just poor planning or maybe stubbornness to just, like, go and ask a farmer, "Can I camp in your paddock?" I don't know where I was in that spot, but it was a really shitty night.
I mean, obviously, you've had some sweet ones there as
Oh,
well. I mean, gosh, I'm just thinking
so
back to what you were saying, waking up to a field of, hundreds of school children all staring at you as you get out of your tent would be a random occurrence as well. But we've
yeah,
skipped so far ahead here. But the first 6 months of your trip was going through Europe.
yeah.
Would it be fair to say where you travelled to some degree became dictated by visas and restrictions, like how long you could spend in somewhere? Like you set off in the Schengen zone and you've got 90 days that you can use up in there. So you've got to figure out how you're going to maximize your time and how you're going to continue your journey.
Yeah, totally, and it requires a fair bit of planning, so that one is quite hard because you just kinda wanna go and take your time, but yeah, you are sort of dictated by it all. I, had this moment, so like I said, I was, wanted to start in Norway, and so I predicted it would take me about 3 months to get through Norway, so then I got myself a temporary working visa for Sweden, thinking that'd be the next country, and then I could use that to travel the rest of the Schengen zone. But we were still on the tail end of the pandemic, so Norway's borders were still shut, and I was really going back and forth. I really wanted to do this cape to cape, but I really wanted to get on the road, and I sort of had my housemate stop and be like, "Okay, like, is it about the route or is it about the adventure?" And she's like, "You either wait, and you might have to wait a whole year because you need to wait for summer and for all the timings to open up, or just go." And I was like, "I'm going." So everything just got blown up at the very, very beginning, which was an incredible gift for me because it took away this, I should be doing this should be my route, or any sort of expectation. And I started in Gibraltar, but yeah, once I got around all of Spain, around Portugal and the north of Spain and the French Pyrenees, my 90 days were up. And it made absolutely no sense at all, but I kind of had to get out of the Schengen zone. And so I had to fly up to Sweden. That was the last place that I could go. I had this wanted to use this working visa, like temporary visa thing that I'd gotten. And so the other options were got sort of skip everything straight to the Balkans or go back to the UK, which you couldn't pay me to do.
What a great little bit of advice from your flatmate. It's not,
Yes.
is it about the route or is it about the adventure? Could nearly be the title of your book. Not
Yeah,
about the route, all about the adventure.
she really sends into.
Is there part of you now then that wants to scratch that itch of Norway?
Yeah, there is a part of me now. Like I've said, I would love to do Norway, and I've got this little bit. So I'm just taking a break now, but there is this still because I flew out from Barcelona. And so I have this bit from Barcelona to Geneva that I haven't done yet, and it's the French Alps, which is just gonna be sensational. So I will do that this summer, and then Norway is on the cards. The only problem is Norway is, like, wildly expensive, and I've just been cycling for so long, so my budget is pretty slim at the moment.
Norway is ridiculously expensive. And Switzerland too.
Surprisingly, I cycled the whole way across Switzerland, and I actually it didn't bust my budget only because it was so expensive, I couldn't buy anything, like, I had to camp every single night or use warm showers, and I'm pretty sure I just ate two-minute noodles just indefinitely because it took all the fun, like, you could not just order a hot chocolate that's gonna be, like, I don't know, 15 Australian dollars.
Yeah, I could imagine. Actually, previous guest of the show, Muriel Zakuri. Hi, Muriel. He was in Japan, I think. I think it was Japan, and he took a photo at the museum of the founder of 2 Minute Noodles, and he sort of joked it's like the patron saint of bicycle travelers.
It's
Oh my
awesome.
gosh, I really hope it was Japan. And if it's not, then I'll just, if it's not Japan, it was South Korea or China, because that's where he was beforehand. But I'm fairly sure it was Japan. But yeah, how much does that resonate though? How many nights of this trip were 2 minute noodles
Yeah.
where you're saving grace?
I'll be pretty happy to have a break from them, to be honest. Two-minute noodles and oats. My god, quick oats. I could really take a break from them.
You know what's going to be really random for you though? There'll be a time where maybe you're saving up for your next trip and it's going to be something that you cook up just to remind you of traveling.
Yeah, it could very well be.
I've had a few guests who've done something like that. So for sure. While we're talking food, it always has to come up on the pod because I'm a massive food lover.
Yeah.
I'm imagining, Steph, on your trip, like even like riding through Africa and stuff like that. I know through friends who've traveled through there, often you're riding through just roadside vendors and stalls and stuff with food sellers. I imagine, would that be typically where you were stocking up? And what was some of the nicest food that you might have picked up from one of those?
Yeah, there's heaps of street food available, and it's cool because you're going through, like, a tiny village, and, like, as soon as the thought gets in your mind, like, "Oh, I might be hungry," you're like, "Oh, here's a stand. Great."
Nice.
Two favorites, which I think is pretty classic in Africa. In Tanzania, they have chips mayai, which is kind of just like hot chips cooked in an omelette, but it's delicious. They have like chili sauce on top. It's super yummy. It's like a perfect cycling food. You're like carby or fatty. It's warm. It's salty.
Yum.
A bit of protein that you can claim. I did live off chips mayo for, like, quite some time, and then you cross over into Uganda, they've got the role, which is this, like, super yum, freshly cooked chapati, again, with an omelette in the middle, and they really sell them everywhere. It's a super nice, and it's, like, I don't know, really cheap, less than an Aussie dollar. You can just ride and eat them all day, and in Tansy as well, the fresh fruit stalls, you can just roll up and there's pineapples and watermelons and massive avocados and any fruit, like, it's just delicious. It's a delicious journey.
I remember someone telling me too, like the bananas are also different over there as well.
They've got really small sweet bananas. It's delicious as well.
Yeah, and like really starchy ones as well.
Yeah, and they make motoki, which is like it's like a starchy mash.
It's amazing, like just the insights of learning about a place just through its food culture too, though, isn't it? Like there's so much
Yes.
you'd never learn in a book. It's going there and experiencing it, isn't it?
Yeah, and the smells and the scenes, and I think one of my favorite parts of these little vendors is that you kinda get welcomed. They pull out some plastic chair that someone else was sitting on, they've kicked them off, you know? But you sit on this chair and you're eating your chips mai or your raw eggs, and somehow you sort of blend into the furniture, and then you just watch life sort of unfold, but from this very local perspective. So you're behind the chef who's cooking, and, all the kids that are coming up with their coins to buy, like, a hot treat, or a grandma that's come to buy a chapati for the evenings, or just watching life unfold is a really cool little window.
One of those things you can't sort of plan to do. You know, there's people in this world that love to plan every single detail of a holiday. And look, that's for them and that's great. And they have like, oh, I want this experience or that experience. You
Yes.
can't plan on a trip and go, I want to be the person that gets sat down at the plastic chair and gets to watch life go by. Like, it's not
No.
even an experience you know exists at the time.
Yes. Exactly, exactly. I think there are only very small areas of Africa that you could strongly plan through, especially not this sub-Saharan belt, like, that is just pure chaos and adventure through there. You just never know what's gonna happen. It's super wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Steph, I mentioned in my introduction, like your first few months, we sort of talked a bit briefly there through Europe. And then you did manage to go from Switzerland. I think you scored a job in Megève
Yes.
at a ski lodge, which then meant that you actually had to cycle through some grim winter weather to get there, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that looked absolutely nasty. What did you just freeze every day or did you find some way to keep warm? I've lived in France for a bit and I know what damp cold winters are like there.
Yeah.
It might not be Canadian -30. It doesn't need to be because it's cold.
Cold and it's wet. And, you know, like, it would either be rain that sits about 1 degrees, so it just you're soaked but freezing. It was some really cold I think because I went from Barcelona, it must have been October. I think it was October. And, you know, Barcelona's, like, all warm and all chill, I'm in shorts, and then I flew into Sweden, it was suddenly 9 degrees, and I'm like, "Oh, no, cold cycling, I haven't even thought about this." And it really got colder and colder. So, yeah, to stay warm, I think I just ate, like, maybe double my weight in croissants each day. But, yeah, it was cold. I was camping in the snow and cycling in blizzards with my skinny little tires, and in between there, the saving grace was warm showers, the cycle hosting app, which I'm sure everyone knows about. But you'd be welcomed into this warm, beautiful home. There might even be a fire lit and someone's got hot soup on the stove and, like, cheesy bread and, oh, yeah, the warm showers really, really brought me through.
Oh gosh, it would do. And actually, the closer you get to the Alps, the more cheesy influence the food would get too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Potato dauphinoise and raclette and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
all that goodness. Oh yeah, injected into my veins.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I mean, we were talking about unexpected things you can't plan for. Something unexpected that did happen to you that you'd never want to plan for is you hurt your knee. I think you ACL injury.
Yeah. I did so well, like, this whole, like, planning for the experience. While I was cycling across Sweden, because that was the last country that I had this residency visa, it was the last place that I could get a visa for to work in France. So as I cycled across it, I was organizing visa interviews and getting this visa for France. I got it after, like, a big, big effort, and then I was doing interviews on the road, like, I'd organize an interview, then go and steal someone's Wi-Fi, like, standing out the back, stealing their Wi-Fi to do a professional interview for these jobs. I got myself a job in France. It was like a kind of a killer job. It was a chalet manager with free food, free accommodation, free ski lift, and a bit of a stipend, and I was like, "Okay, I've hooked myself up for winter. Here we go."
Yeah, landed on your feet.
I know, landed on my bloody feet, got in, started the job, moved in, you beauty, 3 weeks into the season, I had a massive ski accident, tore my ACL, MCL, my meniscus, I tore it all. It was a season-ending, surgery-requiring injury, and it happens in just 1 second, one spill. 30 seconds, you feel the tear, and it was all over Red Rover. And I was in the ambulance going to the hospital. It's like, okay, maybe it's just the LCL. It'll just be 6 weeks. This is I can do this. I can do this. And the doctor just looked at me like I was an idiot. She was like, no, like everything's torn, like full rupture, surgery, like you're done.
Oh, heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was. It was a moment of just like, I messed up. Oh,
That would have been horrible because it's one thing for that to happen. I mean, it would be horrible wherever it happens. Let's get that out of the way. But when it happens in a country where you don't speak the language natively, right? Or maybe you do speak French.
I do not.
I try, but I've got to start navigating the healthcare system. But then you've also dealt this killer blow of this isn't put it in a cast for 3 weeks and then get going again. This is like a rehab from those sort of injuries is quite serious.
Yeah.
So you made the decision to return to Australia at that point, didn't you?
The decision was sort of made for me. Like you said, I was trying to navigate the French system and I was trying to book in for MRIs, and no one was speaking English, and I was trying to get people to speak French for me. And it ended up being, I think it was going to be a 6-week wait just for an MRI to diagnose the full rupture to then get on a wait list for surgery. Like it wasn't going to happen. The dream job didn't actually end up being a dream job. The boss was a bit of a jerk. And so he said, like, if you're not ready, you can't stay. And I was kind of out of options. So yeah, I had to pack up and go home. But the problem is I had sold everything. So like I went back to Australia. I didn't even have a pair of undies. Like I had nothing there. And you're just going, oh shit, don't sell everything. It was really tough. It was really tough. Literally the day I got back to Australia, because COVID kind of hit Australia much later than it did Europe.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we were locked out of Australia for most of the
Yes.
pandemic. Like,
Yeah.
you arrived in the UK a couple of months before. I arrived in Ireland a few weeks before. And 6 months down the track from that, returning back to Australia wasn't even an option.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am glad that I could go back, but quite literally the day that I arrived, they had cancelled all non-elective surgeries that day that I arrived, and the ACL falls under non-elective. And so it was just like the waves just keep crashing, when it rains, it rains. So it was hard. It was hard. It was really uncertain for a while there, and I knew, and it felt quite hard because it was out of my control. I knew once I had the surgery, then the rehab was all on me, and I could get back. And I was so desperate, like just have to get this surgery, and then I can start healing and get back on my track. Yeah, it was pretty uncertain for a while there. The hospitals were saying it'll be 1 year to 18 months wait list. It was not really going to happen anytime soon. And in that time, I was also just like couch surfing friends, sleeping like in their vans, and you've got your whole leg bounded in a brace. It was a rough time. It was a rough time, but it ended up being okay. I think it was 6 weeks from when I got into Australia, 6 weeks, and I had the surgery, and it was through the public system because it was another thing. Like everyone was saying you're going to have to go private, and that was going to be all my savings for the whole trip just spent on this knee injury. And so it was either like get your surgery done but you can't do the cycle, or wait to do the cycle but you can't because you need surgery. So it's really complicated, but I got super lucky. I got a public surgery within 6 weeks, and then it was like I had steely determination, like it's go, like this is now in my, like the ball's in my court. And I went super ham on rehab. I was doing it twice a day, every single day, wouldn't miss a single session, lots of research. And I was back within, to the day, 4 months from the surgery date, I was back on the bike, standing in the Swiss Alps. Let's go.
Wow. That's amazing. How's the knee been? I imagine cycling's non-weight bearing, so that would be cool. Although cycling when you can cycle, I've seen where you've been, Steph, and there's many roads where you've got to walk these roads. But how has the knee become quite strong? Like, do you feel there's a strength in that now? Like it is rehabbed, or
Yeah,
is
yeah.
there a bit of a weakness there still?
There's an inequality for sure. I think that'll always be there, but it's very subtle. When I first got on the bike, like, so the bike is perfect. Like, that's how you need to strengthen up your knee and the supportive muscles. And it's also perfect because it's your knee is like locked into like a forward motion. It's not twisting, which is where the ACL injury is. It was a really perfect sport to get back into. the first few months, like it would get very stiff, and I'd have to do a lot of stretching, a lot of massage, a lot of releasing some other muscles that probably shouldn't have been activated. But now, yeah, I really can't tell the difference. Yeah, it's perfect.
That's awesome. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm so glad. I'm
yeah.
so glad that you were able to find a way to get back on the bike. What was it like that first day where you loaded Cliffy up and went going again?
It was super nice. It was, yeah, really, it was only 1 month later than I would have started after the ski season. So I was really fortunate. I still got the summer and all the timing sort of worked out. But the renewed appreciation of independence after being like so disabled and just I couldn't even get on a bus. Like the bus would drive away and I couldn't even run like 10 meters to catch it, and just watching it being after going from so physically independent to just everything was so difficult. Even just walking around a supermarket to get food was tough. So the appreciation of being independent and the appreciation of my body being so capable was incredible. And I still haven't lost it. I still wake up and be like, hell yeah, buddy, get going, get up this hill.
Listeners, I've been using the Psych Plus AS2 Pro tiny e-pump inflator on my rides recently, and it's honestly been super, super handy. When I first got it, I was a little bit skeptical. Would I actually really ditch my hand pump for something electronic? But I have loved it. It's super small. It packs easily into my little saddlebag without weighing me down. And what I love the most is actually the tyre pressure gauge. It's great because I can see exactly what PSI I'm putting in, which comes in handy whether I'm fixing a puncture or actually doing rides which switch between dirt roads and tarmac. The unit takes about 30 minutes to fully charge, and a full charge will inflate my tyres 3 to 5 times, which is plenty enough for most rides. If you want to check it out, I've got a link in the podcast show notes to Cyclist. And Seek Travel Ride listeners get 5% off. Simply use the code STR. It's been a solid little gadget for me, and it's definitely on my pack list for my bikepacking adventures. Okay, now back to the episode. Yeah, can I just say, I mean, I know we're talking physically about what your body's been able to achieve, but my gosh, your inner talk, if it's not there now, it thoroughly deserves to be able to look back at what you've done and go, hell yeah, Steph, wow.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't want to sound, cliche is not the right word. I don't even know how I don't want to sound, but I fully mean it when I say your story is inspirational and you have 1,000,000% inspired so many people, especially women. And I know this because they get in touch with me to say this. So many people request, when are you interviewing Steph? I'd love you to
Aw.
interview Steph. Hey, do you know about what she's doing? And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm on Team Steph here. This is awesome. But do you have that self-talk of pride within what you've achieved? Or is this achieved is the wrong word because you're still journeying on, aren't you? Like this is just a pause button for you.
Yeah, we're all still journeying, but I'm super proud, and, like, I've become my own best friend on this journey, and I'm super proud, like, I got to the end, like, "Yes, you did it. Hell yeah," It's maybe not like, "Oh, all your challenges and you've risen against it," but it was like, "That was gnarly, that was a big dream, and I coulda easily just stayed a dream, and I wouldn't let it." At each step, sort of the knee and Sudan were big breaks, like, sort of big disturbances to this
Huge.
journey, and they could have easily just been, "Okay, like, I've had this crazy journey, let's settle here," but I was like, "No way," And I'm really proud. I'm really, really happy.
And I think the other thing, Steph, also is like you've had this dream and you found a way to make it a reality. It's definitely a question which I get asked from listeners of the show, especially when I interview solo females. And I know that I have this as a woman myself. There's a perception that doing this type of journey as a solo female in certain areas is a no-no. And I feel like you're a great example to highlight of, well, actually look at here. And
Yeah.
notwithstanding what happened in Sudan, I look at areas where you've traveled and I know so many people would be like, that's a no-no. Saudi Arabia is a clear case in point.
Yeah,
How many people would think that Saudi is a place where women should be traveling at all, yet alone on their own?
yeah,
And did you face this a bit through your trip as well?
totally, and you're already, like, as a on a baseline, you're already a bit maybe scared or nervous, or like you don't know. Everyone's a bit afraid of the unknown. And then I think for women, we just get all this extra. We get everyone sort of vomiting their fear onto us as well, like projecting this fear, like, oh, but you won't be safe as a woman, but you can't camp, but you can't do this, but you'll be attacked, but this will happen to you. You'll be robbed because you look vulnerable and you're weak. You can't defend yourself. All this insane like regurgitation straight into your face. And it's really, it happened a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. And I love that I have sort of evidence now. I've been through 40 countries over years, through Africa, Middle East, Europe. I've had an incredible time. I haven't had a single incident at all being a woman that I felt threatened ever. And that is now like evidence for me. I love to be able to tell women, like, absolutely not. Like, there is a version of this adventure that is just an incredible journey. And Sudan is a completely sort of different. It wasn't at all because I was a woman. It was civil unrest. This can happen to anyone. It was nothing. I wasn't threatened myself. It was just, you're in the middle of a war. So it's a different sort of kettle of fish there. And it's hard. It's really hard for women because you have to reflect all this fear from other people, plus sort of deal with the fear within you. And at the same time, have all this like false confidence to pretend like I'm going to be okay. But you don't really know, and you're afraid and you feel vulnerable. And then everyone's telling you you are vulnerable. And it's a big challenge to be like, to keep your cool, I'll be okay, and just really believe in humanity and that things will go okay. And yeah, it's a big challenge, I think, and it's quite women specific. And it makes me super happy. I have had lots of women message me and be like, wow, I saw this. So I'm either trying my own solo bike trip, or I'm trying camping in the wilderness for the first time, or I've been on a hike by myself for the first time. And it's incredible. It's incredible for me. That's maybe the most special effect that I've ever had in my life, to be able to be an example that people use quite a lot. Even men use it. Like I get a lot of messages from guys saying, wow, like I was afraid to go to Africa, or I was afraid to go to this country, and I saw you do it. It gave me confidence that maybe I could do it too. Yeah, so it's wonderful, wonderful. But Saudi Arabia was a really unknown country. Absolutely. The tourism had not opened up for long. I think it was 2018, and there wasn't that many people that had been through Saudi Arabia, and I certainly solo, unmarried, white women on a bicycle was quite a bit like, gosh, like how am I gonna be received? And it was a very big unknown. I crossed the border, I had a headscarf on, like, wow, I don't even really know how conservative this is gonna be. Am I gonna be cast out as like a "How dare you?" And I didn't know. I crossed the border, like, trying to, like, look at everyone like, "Okay, how's this gonna be received? What's gonna happen?" And Saudi Arabia was one of my all-time favorite countries of all of them, of any that I've visited. It was incredible. I can't speak so much for the government, but on a grassroots level, as always, the generosity and the kindness and the support of the people was it was nothing less than mind-blowing. It was it was I couldn't pay for any food. I would never have a problem finding somewhere to stay. Like, you were just always welcome. And just 10, 15 cars every day would stop to give you snacks and gifts and welcome you to their country, to cheer me on. There was nothing at all about being a woman alone. Like, it was more, wow, you're doing it. It's possible that a woman can do this. Like, it was kind of shattering some ceilings, and it was all supportive. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've been fortunate to interview a few people now who've travelled through Saudi, and I'm thinking of Helen Dainty.
Yeah.
I mean, she's carved out a way for her to perpetually be travelling on the road, and it was something that she said that struck me as well. Is like she almost feels embarrassed of what her own inner perceptions of like Arab men were like
Yeah.
before she travelled there.
Yeah.
And it is just that media, that Western focus on what to expect and, oh, it's going to be scary and bad being a woman in this country. Because she says it was the furthest from the truth. Like, she just was overwhelmed with hospitality. I know when I spoke with Madeline Hoffman, she hadn't been through Saudi yet, but I know in speaking with her since and watching her journey play out, it was exactly the same. And I've had other guests say the same sort of thing. And that seems to be your exact experience as well there, Steph.
Yeah, totally. And that's another thing, like women inspiring women. Like Hells was in Saudi just before me. And I was very closely watching her and speaking with her, being like, well, if she can do it, like, why can't I do it? And then I hope that I've done it. So why can't, someone else do it? And then the more trails, like the more tracks that we mark on this feminine trail, more people will realize that it's okay for women to travel alone. And it's actually in Arabic based countries in the Middle East, I found being a woman was actually a massive asset because of the cultural differences. Women are allowed to come straight into like the inner sanctums of the home. You can interact with not just the men, but the women as well, with the children. It opens up so many other facets of society because you're a woman. It's incredible. I had a lot of couples and a lot of single male cyclists message me, be like, I'm actually really jealous of your experiences. Like that hasn't been as open as me, or they haven't been let into the homes, or they haven't had these special little sit downs with a whole group of women to understand their lives. And I felt really, really thankful to be a woman alone in the Middle East.
It was an advantage at some points as well.
Absolutely.
Did you find then, as your trip went on, you sort of hinted that inner voice of, you've got so much evidence that it's okay to do this? So did you find that the fears that you had at the start of the trip, did they melt away a little bit, or do you still have to have the self-talk sometimes yourself too?
Yeah, no, they do melt away because you start to see things as they really are rather than what you've perceived them to be. And you've got all this evidence to back you that the things will work out. And it's the same, like when I left, I thought like, oh, what if the bike breaks? I don't know how to fix it. What if this happens? What if this happens? And they probably all did happen. And you just figure it out, like it's going to be okay. And I think that's the same with fear. Like I think my hardest challenge is when locals are warning you of something because you meant to listen to locals and local advice. But I think I've learned along the way that you have to take that advice in context. So if a person is saying it's not possible to camp somewhere, but they've never camped a day in their life, maybe that advice isn't 100% going to be accurate to your situation. If someone says there are rebels down the street, well, okay, I'm going to listen, like they've lived in this town for however long.
Take the advice with context. That's such an amazing insight to sort of think about. It makes sense when you say it out loud.
Yeah.
I can imagine it's only the experience of traveling which gives you that intuition to sort of question stuff like that too.
Yeah, it happened in the Middle East a lot. Everyone's very afraid of wolves. It's a really big thing in the Middle East. They're not so outdoorsy. Camping's becoming more common, but it's not sort of your standard, not like Australia where everyone sort of has some experience camping or whatever. And at the beginning, everyone's saying, "No, no, you can't. It's super unsafe." La la la. And I'm thinking, like, is it unsafe because I'm a woman? Is it like what's unsafe? And you really have to be like, why, like what's going on? And they're like, the wolves. And you're kind of like, man, I would kill to see a wolf. Like, I'm okay with
I
the
love
wolves.
it.
And so you're okay. Like is there a massive dust storm coming? I'm going to be blown away. It's like, no, the wolves. And you're like, okay, okay. And they're really worried about it. And I wish, but I never saw a single wolf the whole way through the Middle East. I camped the whole way through the desert. But it really makes you think like, okay, maybe, yeah, you really have to. And that's the same with people's warnings everywhere and everyone's saying, be careful and be safe. And there is a level, absolutely, you have to have situational awareness, but you really have to take what people are saying in context. Have you been to Africa or have you been to the Middle East? Have you been to the country that I'm going to? What kind of experience do you have? Or have you read one news article or seen one TikTok about something that happened in a general African country or Middle Eastern, or Muslim person? Like, the incredible misinformation is insane. It's very detrimental to some of these countries and regions.
Yeah.
It's really important source where this fear is coming from and whether you're going to take that fear on or not.
And I guess in the same way that you yourself did, is actually look for examples of what you're doing to seek out that truth. You were mentioning, Hells, she was traveling through Saudi before you were. So that was a way to be able to go, oh, wow, she's done it, so I can do it. And people will hear your story, Steph, and they may even reach out to you to get some advice on it as well. And I'm sure many, many people already have.
Yeah, and I love it. I love it.
Actually, Steph, a random experience that you definitely wouldn't have planned for that happened, I think it was when you were in Montenegro. was you came across a dog that was not in a good way at all,
Yeah.
affectionately called it Monty, and you took the dog in. Can you tell me a little bit about that part of your trip?
Yeah, that was a super special part. I'm such a sucker for animals. This was always gonna happen. There's no way one of those little stray dogs wouldn't get my soul. Like, there's so many in the Balkans in that region. It's a very poor stray dog control. So there's puppies, it's these gorgeous little puppies and very tired, friendly stray dogs everywhere. And it can be quite intense if you love animals. And yeah, it was one of those things you just can't plan for. I was cycling out of the mountains. My bike was actually broken, and I was meeting some friends that were going to take me to a mechanic, blah, blah, blah. But I decided instead of like following my normal commute route, which I always, was just generally following if I'm tired and wasn't going for an adventure, I just saw a little sign that said, I don't even know what it said, something this way. And I was like, no, I'll go that way. And I took that other crossroad, and as I was coming past, I saw this tiny, gorgeous little puppy, just a bundle of energy wiggling around in the grass. And I actually cycled past, I was like, no way, it's too cute. So I stopped the bike and ran back for just a little pat. And then I realized she was covered in ticks, really big ones. Her motor control was sort of all over the place. She was quite sick from it. And from that moment, that little thing had me. She looked into my eyes, she gave me a little snug. I was like, "Oh, no, I'm invested. Like, I'm gonna help you." And it turned into this huge adventure. It just blew this whole part of the trip, like, in a different direction, and we ended up I found a very good friend in London who would adopt her, and we ended up getting her, like, microchipped and vaccinated. I stole a grocery shopping basket and just zip tied it to the front of my bike.
How good are zip ties? This is what you need to bring them for.
Yep, zip ties.
I know.
And this little thing, and we cycled off together out of the mountains, and, we had this incredible 6-week, 1,300-kilometer, 4-country big adventure together, and she just lives this beautiful, happy, privileged life in London now. And yeah, she's super happy, and it's incredible to watch.
There's got to be a part of you that's like really itchy to go and see Monty again, right?
Well, that was the one good thing about being evacuated after Sudan, is I was pretty lost for places to go and what to do. So I went back to London because I have a lot of old flatmates there that I could sort of bum around with. And I got to see Monty again. We got to be reunited. And it was beautiful, but I was so fragile after being evacuated. I was like, if this dog does not recognize who I am, and she's been like this critical point in my life, like, I'm gonna have a meltdown. But she did. We had this beautiful moment. She recognized me and we were hugging and it was super fulfilling.
So I would have been a mess with that.
I was, absolutely. It was beautiful.
Dogs live for you, don't they?
Yeah,
They understand love and then they're so loyal and they live for you.
yeah. But she's so loved, like, her family just she's so, so loved and cherished, and it's just a really happy, wonderful story.
So serendipitous.
Yeah.
You were in a space there where you needed that love too. Sudan,
Yeah.
I don't even know what words I would use to describe Sudan with your experience, because I feel like there's two sides to your Sudan experience, and there's the Sudan experience that you would set out for and just overwhelmed with kindness and with hospitality and scenery and things. I think you had like 50-degree heat to navigate through too, which maybe even as an Aussie is just a bit on the hot scale, right?
It was a bit on the hot side.
Yeah, and then like you said, that something totally unplanned, the poorest of timing, out of your controls when war breaks out. I'd like though, Steph, if you could we spend some time talking about the before the war part of Sudan and your experience of Sudan, the country, and the Sudanese people that's totally separate from what happened there?
Yeah, and it's really hard for me because the war has overwritten Sudan. That's the Western person's perspective, is that it's just war torn and that's all it is. And I would really assume that it's the same for many war torn countries. But I've had a personal experience with Sudan where, like, I know the people that are there, that are on the ground, the families and the grandmas and the uncles and the shop owners and all these beautiful people. And it was absolutely the kindest country that I've ever been to in my life. And I think that's something common. People say, oh, the people are so kind, the people are so kind. But Sudan is like none other. It's kindness on steroids and so very genuine. I formed very deep connections, really loving connections with so many families along the way. And it was incredibly safe as far as the people, the civil war and politics are really unstable, but the people are so loving and so caring. You would never have a problem with the people. Someone will always help you. And they did. The war broke out, and I was cared so lovingly by a 80-year-old grandma who only spoke Arabic. I was just welcomed off the street. You live with us now. You live with us forever. And she just fed me and loved me and cared for me for as long as if I had to live there for, it's been 300 days of war now. I was only there for 10. And I still bet that if I was there and if everything, if we were still alive, she would still be caring for me. I had no doubt in my mind that I would be welcome forever and ever and ever. And that is just true to Sudanese people. You are, no matter who you are welcome and you are in the family and you are just one of us.
It's so beautiful hearing that there's cultures out there that exist that the hospitality and the kindness they stretch out to a complete stranger
Yeah.
is beyond compare. And then when the uncertainty of something like war breaks out, often when things like war break out, you sort of think it's almost every man for himself sometimes. Like you've got to do what you got to do to survive. But this is a counterpoint to that. Like you were continually cared for. I remember at the time looking through, thinking, my gosh, Steph, what's going on? And I was seeing beautiful stories of, interacting with this loving family. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was a happy time with stuff going on, but there were happy moments for you because you were taking in and there was a distraction there in some respect too, I guess.
Yeah, it was very interesting, to say the least, to be in the middle of like a huge crisis because it was very much not every man for themselves. I think that's maybe kind of a Western idea, and it was shocking to me as well. It was everybody, let's band together. So there was this total underground movement of goods that I didn't really know how it worked because I couldn't speak Arabic very well, but I was trying to work it out. But there'd be bread that was delivered over the fence, and then Mama Zainab, who I was living with, she had goats and she would send goat milk to the next door neighbors because they were breastfeeding and they needed extra milk for their babies. And like this whole, at least the small suburb, at least the village where I was, everyone was looking after each other, and they all knew what each other needed. It was this beautiful shift of supplies to keep everyone holded together. It was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time.
I can't even put the words to what that heartbreak would be like. My only insights into what something like that's like is through what I've seen, what you've shared, and yeah, I don't have a personal connection to it, but I know that like even talking now, I'm covered in goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like it's a deep experience. It's not one that will ever leave you. I know you were there for 10 days. You managed to get out, and that was madness in itself. All of a sudden, on a flight brought back to Paris or France, weren't you?
Yeah, we were evacuated to Djibouti and spent 3 days at the military camp there and then straight into Paris.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be nuts. Going from that situation to all of a sudden you're back on the streets, you're a tourist, and
Yeah.
no one has any comprehension of your experience whatsoever.
Yeah, there was a really, really intense moment for me. So for 3 days, like the tent, like this whole war mentality and survival had been going for, almost 2 weeks now. And we're all in the military camp in Djibouti, and then we went to Paris, and there was just like a flood of media and, I don't know, police and special workers at the airport and trying to like taking all our details, and like very intense sort of vibe there. And there was a door at the gate, and you walk through the door, and when I walked through it, you sort of look to your left through the doors and all this chaos and media and everyone trying to take sort of juicy shots of refugees. And then I was on the other side of it, and I could have just been some Insta gal going on a weekend in Paris to take a picture in a beret eating a crepe, you know? It was bizarre for me. All of a sudden, I just left this entire world and I was sucked back into Western life. And I was just walking to the train, and then you just go, you know, you've still got to function, and you go to the train and you're sitting on the train and there's all these families and everyone's come for a holiday, and you've just left this incredibly traumatic, incredibly deep moment in my life. And shit, I'm just sitting on the plane with my single bag of things that I managed to get out, and going into downtown Paris. It was really mind-blowing, and I think it's a very intense moment where you realize you have no idea what's going on in people's lives. To treat everyone with so much kindness is so important, more now than ever, because anyone could be experiencing any major thing. It's not just certain type of people or what you think. It was full on, really full on.
I was just thinking something you said there. I asked you before we recorded. I thought it was a ridiculously hard question when I asked you, but if you were to be able to describe your experiences of this trip and only use one word, what would it be? And the word that you told me was kindness.
Yeah.
Even through that experience, that whole mind, I can't swear, mind jam of it all, that kindness is what is the thing that you've imprinted as well. I'm not saying you don't have other experiences and you don't have other thoughts, but even that you're associating to react to people with kindness, because that's also what people showed you and that's what got you out. In fact, Steph, you started a GoFundMe for
Rehan, yeah.
beautiful Sudanese lady who actually helped you get out,
Yeah.
risked everything to do that, and then was not able to leave herself.
Yeah.
She subsequently did get to Egypt, if I'm correct.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you set up a GoFundMe, which has really helped now, I guess, put her life on a different trajectory. Do you think that would be correct to say?
Yeah, it's for sure helped. It's been a collective effort with a few people. She's super wonderful. Rehan's incredible. She's just a total powerhouse, a really independent, strong woman, and someone that deserves a chance. And it's very exciting to be a part of trying to get her that chance. She's just landed in Paris yesterday, and it was a really horrible moment to leave her behind. It was one of the worst moments of my life, really. But through a series of events and help of others, she managed to get to Egypt, and she was really struggling financially. So a few of us have been trying to raise some money for her. And I just had a really amazing response. I think almost 100 people donated to her that were my Instagram followers or people who'd been following the journey. And it was beautiful to see. I also felt like so much love and kindness, just that they trusted me with connecting them with someone that needed help. And yeah, we worked out sort of a payment schedule, and I send her money each month. She tells me how much she wants out of the budget. Yeah, she applied for a university scholarship in France, and she got it, which was incredible. And she's just flown to Paris yesterday. My sister's meeting her today in Paris, and it's just a beautiful story for someone that wholeheartedly deserves the chance. So she's going to spend the next year studying French, and then the year after that she gets to study a topic of her choice.
Wow, that is fantastic. And that GoFundMe is still live.
Yeah,
I'm going to provide a link to it in the show notes.
wonderful.
If you're like me, I think this story can't be anything but impactful. So much devastation's happened in a beautiful country like Sudan to beautiful people, and to know that there has been an opportunity, thankfully, come out of it at least, is quite heartwarming. I know, Steph, you also fundraised actually throughout your trip. This is just a side shoot, really, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
you also fundraised, I think, for a few charities along the way, didn't you?
Yeah, I kind of had the mentality like, and I think it's very common now. It's so overwhelming. You look at Gaza and Ukraine and Sudan, and then 100 other wars that we aren't even open to, like haven't even seen on the news. And you can sort of shut down. It's really overwhelming to see so much tragedy in the world. Kind of get into a state where I can't help anyone, like I can't save the world. And that's very true, but you can help one or two or make some difference in someone's life. And I think this cycle has been a really nice opportunity to connect me with so many people. So if I can do some good, then I'll do it. It might not be huge. Some people raise incredible amounts of money, and I've got to say that I've not raised some industrial amount, but anything can make a difference. Yeah, it's been really nice to choose charities that really resonate with me. Throughout Europe, it was for Water Aid Australia, for clean water and hygiene and sanitary conditions in rural communities in Australia, and also for a breast cancer charity as well, Copperfield, to raise awareness in young people to check their breasts and to be aware of signs of breast cancer. And then the Middle East and Africa has been Medicine Sans Frontières, so Doctors Without Borders. And that's kind of a general one that's really everywhere. They're in Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan. And being on like in Sudan, they're really there. Like they're actually really doing things. I had quite a big opportunity to speak to people who were very high up. I was evacuated with diplomats and all sorts of the tops of NGOs and sort of the big wigs. And there was a lot of discussion about what charities were not really doing much and what charities were doing. And Doctors Without Borders are for sure there. They're in the really tough hot zones doing really important work.
It's interesting. Again, it's not that you would have wanted the experience to learn that, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, but it's good to hear it, and it's good to hear that as well, because often you can donate money and wonder, well, where is this going? But to hear that there is actually activities happening from it, and your funds are actually being put to good. Something just struck me when you were talking there, Steph. You were mentioning Ukraine, Gaza, and Sudan. I mean, three conflicts that current conflicts I'll put in. Like, obviously, I know there's been conflicts in past time as well, but three conflicts that didn't actually exist when you first set off
Yeah.
from Gibraltar.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a spin out to think that, isn't it?
Totally. And these are the three major ones that we're exposed to. There's just so many.
Yeah, and there's so many
Don't get any
more.
limelight. Yeah. It's you can really go down a rabbit hole if you want.
You absolutely could. You end up in Paris. You've got probably like a small bag of possessions, and not your bike, not your panniers, not your camping gear, nothing. Literally the shoes on your feet and that to sort of go by. Did you feel at that moment, did you feel that at all, was there part of you that thought, you know what, this trip's done now? Having to go through that experience, I could imagine, did you have to have the internal conversation with yourself? Is the pull still there to get going again?
I actually didn't. I 100% knew that I wanted to get back to Africa. I had really just dipped my toes in. I'd been through Egypt and Sudan, and there was so much of the continent that I hadn't experienced. And it no longer became, I have to do it because I want to get to Cape Town and say I've done it. It was really, I just knew that there was so many incredible people and so much kindness waiting for me. And I really just wanted to go meet them. I wanted to see what was in these countries I knew nothing about. I was 100% sure that it was going to be okay. I really didn't think like, oh, well, Africa's effed, I'm done. It was okay. This was a massive challenge. And it was very hard for me to lose the bike and all the possessions because that was a huge financial setback and emotional setback and some really big things running through my mind when I sort of came out with not much, but a dream still. And this was quite difficult for me because I had a lot of friends, my family, my sister especially, she had just sort of dedicated half her soul to get me out of Sudan and me saying like the day I got out, being like, no, I'm going back. I've just got to get a bike. I've got to get this stuff. She was like, how? Absolutely not. Like, I'm not going through this again. Like, this is crazy. What do you do? Like, she actually got a bit pissed off at me because it was this huge event. I was like, no, it's different. It's not all this. The whole thing isn't this one war in one of the countries. Like, it's way more than this. And I never faltered in this thought that there would be this incredible, beautiful experience awaiting me. But I've got to say, when I did go back and I had the new bike from Genesis and Lenny, and I was standing on the shores in Tanzania, I was thinking, okay, like you have used all your phone a friends, all your extra resources. I've slept on every couch I possibly could in Australia and Europe and the UK. Like, you just have to have smooth sailing from now.
Nothing's allowed. No, no, no.
Yeah, and it was really, I felt quite vulnerable because I had called in all my reinforcements. So this was, please, God, let this just go smoothly.
And I'm not to say that necessarily things didn't occur that needed fixing. I guess nothing is nothing, you didn't blow another knee.
Exactly. I didn't have major setbacks. I just had a wild adventure.
A wild adventure. And oh my gosh, there's so many ways we could unpack the next 7 months of this trip. Fills me with so much excitement. I know we spent quite a bit of time talking about Africa already in this trip. And for those looking for some wanderlust in Europe, Steph did travel through there, and I invite you to look through her Instagram stories of Europe, because I know there's so many beautiful stories we just glossed over.
Yeah,
As the host of the show, I want to learn more about Africa. So I'm going to be selfish and focus more in on that if that's okay.
absolutely. And it's fresh in my mind.
Where do I even start, Steph? I guess there's also, when you came back from your knee injury and you was talking about the first day back, you just felt happiness and freedom again. And you were like, yay.
Yeah.
Did it feel like that, other than that nothing's allowed to go wrong? Did you have that inner happiness again too? Like, did you find that vibe again when you set off?
Yeah, I did. I think it probably took me a week to get into it. The first week was really, I yeah, it's a hard one. I had a lot of processing to do. I was really sort of jumping from place to place, and I didn't have a lot of quiet until I got back on the bike. And so there was a lot of sort of thinking about what had happened in the last few months and really digesting it all, and feeling a bit fragile of like nothing can go wrong for the next little bit. And but yeah, I think that was maybe a bit of pented up anxiety about the possibilities. And then yeah, there was you start to unwind, and just the general like love and happiness of the people and the beauty of the landscapes, and just camping in my own tent on my own in the wilderness is just like, I'm back, baby. Like, this is incredible. And I think once I realized it was going to be okay, like I had thought it was going to be surrounded by kindness and love, and this beautiful adventure, I think I relaxed right back into the cycle, and it was super incredible. Yeah.
And you had some amazing experiences that you can only have in Africa. A lot of people, when they think of Africa, Steph, they think of wildlife for obvious reasons. And I remember coming across, it was one of your posts when you were in, I want to say Uganda, and you were camping in an area. You'd mentioned that it had been said that sometimes gorillas are known to come to this part of the campground sometimes, and you thought, oh wow, maybe I'll be lucky enough. And so you got yourself up early in the morning and you just sat in a corner of the campground and waited. And to your amazing fortune, you started hearing the chest beating, and gorillas did turn up. I want to know about that experience. That just sounds mind blowing to me. I find that I don't even know how to describe what that feeling would have been like. Take me there. Hey there, adventurers! Are you loving the stories on Seek Travel Ride? If so, you can help the podcast wheels turning, literally. Head to the link in the show notes and buy me a coffee. Every coffee fuels this podcast, supports incredible guest stories, and keeps the adventure alive. So go ahead, click the link in the show notes, grab me a virtual brew, and let's ride on together.
Yeah, it was, it was like, there are so many moments in my life where I'm just like, I have got to be the luckiest person in the world. Like, this is insane. And yeah, there was kind of this like background chat, like, oh, maybe the gorillas will turn up. And I had heard from a few people that had gone trekking in the last few days that they were close, that they didn't have to trek for some people. Sometimes you have to trek for, say, like 4 hours or something, but they were in the region. And yeah, I went to the like furthest corner of the campground and just sat there quietly. I was on my laptop, just sort of doing some work and writing, and yeah, I didn't really think it would happen, but then I heard a beat, yeah, the chest beating, and you kind of freeze and go, no way. and this black fuzzy hand just like raised straight out of the bushes that were directly in front of me, maybe 10 meters away, in line, in eyesight line. And the whole family climbed up into the trees, like just the entire family. There were babies, there was a pregnant mom, the silverback came up later. And I'm sitting there just like my jaw is dropped. I'm looking around, it's just me. It's like this super organic moment of nature and these incredible gorillas, you're so closely related and it's just us looking at each other. It was unbelievable. It was almost struggling to breathe, you're just holding your breath going, "Holy crap, like this is really happening." It was unbelievable, and I just sat there super quietly for I think they were there for 2 hours, and some of the staff came down, they had like, I don't know, they had noticed or heard, and they came down to watch with me, and we're all going like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is so cool, this is so cool." I think having the organic connection was it was unbelievable.
So what about lions? I imagine camping at night, hearing lions call, or like was that something that you were experiencing as well?
Yeah, I had a few, very close calls with some big animals.
Whoa. I don't know how I'd feel about that necessarily. Gorillas I can vibe with. Hearing a lion when I'm maybe in my tent in some nylon tent, I'm not sure how I'd feel. How did you feel?
Yeah, strangely calm because I think it's just like, well, I'm either dead or I'm not. Like, there is no real in between. They're either gonna eat me, and if they go for me, they're eating me, like, that's done. And I think, like, being in your tent, there are no other options. I'm not getting out of the tent, certainly. I'm not getting on the bike and running away, so all you can do is be in the tent. So, once you take options out, you can only accept what comes, there is no other choice, so there's no point stressing about it. But I had this, this moment in Tansy, and it's very densely populated. So I would find a spot to camp and be like, "Ah, this is gonna be great," and then all of a sudden you're surrounded by, say, 20 to 50 people, like, kind of all staring at you, and you're like, "Okay, not quite the zen vibe I was going for." And I was cruising down this dirt road, it was perfect timing, starting to look for a campsite. I stopped and there was some giraffes crossing the road, and then I realized, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm alone." And I was like, "This is it. I'm gonna be at a wild camp, finally, this is it." And I dragged my bike into the bushes, and I did all the right things. I'm looking for footprints in the sand, I'm looking for animal tracks to not block them with my tent. I had built a fire. I like stored my food well away, strapped to a tree, well away from my camp, made sort of an exit strategy, la la la. And I'm lying back and it's just a beautiful starry night, so quiet, super happy to be there. Go to bed and about 4 a.m., 3 a.m., my eyes just bolt open. Like I am 100% alert and my heart is in my throat. I'm so disorientated. I'm like, why am I so awake? Like, is it a man? What's going on? Am I being attacked? And there were three, or at least three, lions that were calling to each other, surrounding my tent, like across the tent, all three of them.
Whoa.
And I just froze. And this realization that big ass lions are around me, like, and I just lay there going, "Oh my god." But yeah, I was, in a sausage shape. I'm like strapped I like straight in my sleeping bag, and I'm just looking up, like you said, to this however thin, like what 2 millimeter thick nylon just flapping in the wind. I was like, "That's all that's separating me." And they would like 100% knew I was there. They were 100% talking about me like it was a discussion about what this strange foreign thing was, or I don't know what the details of the chat was. But I just lay there like I was very alert, but it was super exhilarating. I was like, "Wow, I'm like in the middle of the wilderness. This is this is freaking wild."
You're pretty in the middle of it. I don't know that I think I would be wetting myself. I'm just like, if that listeners, if you could have seen my face when Steph was describing that, like, I felt like I was in the tent.
Yeah, you look like you that was my face in the tent. That was absolutely
Whoa. What happened? Like, did they just chill out? They were like, oh no, she's all cool. Let's keep going. Maybe they were saying, hey, you need to be careful. You're a solo female.
Yeah, yeah, you should
It's
watch
like,
out. There are dangerous humans around. I, yeah, I just
we
lay
got
awake.
you. We're the lions. We'll keep you clear.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
your
yeah,
security for the night.
yeah,
Nothing to see here.
absolutely. I always wanted to be Eliza Thornberry, so that was as close as I'd ever get to my childhood dreams.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I essentially just lay there dead still, like, I've told someone else this story, and they're like, "Oh, did you film it?" I was like, "Absolutely not. I was not moving a single muscle."
No way.
Absolutely not. And eventually they left, I think maybe an hour or so, and they moved on. I didn't move for the rest of the night, and in the morning, it was that moment like, "Okay, please don't
Quickly,
be
let's
there,
go.
please don't be there." Yeah, yeah.
They're cats though, aren't they? Ultimately, they'd be nocturnal. Maybe they're having a sleep then.
Yeah, yeah, they could have well been just, like, laid down, so I sort of, like, snuck one eye out, and they're like, "Please God, no, please God, no." But they had gone, and I cycled into a Maasai village that was not so far, and I stopped and chatted to someone, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, there were lions," like, such a tourist, and he was like, "Yeah, there are heaps of lions here. They come up and take their livestock, like, take their goats as an easy meal." Because I had assumed it was during migration, I was like, "Oh, well, there's heaps of antelope, all the lions must be eating antelope, that's what they do." But I think it's such an easy feed to steal livestock, so yeah, they really come up and clash with the Maasai there.
The experiences you must have had also, like, segue, the Maasai experiences, like just even, visualizing it and stuff, and not as part of an organized tour, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm not saying that having an experience as part of a tour means it's not authentic, but observing, like being in that sort of area and seeing the Maasai culture, I imagine that must have been pretty cool.
It was incredible. There's a lot to think about with very famous cultures like the Maasai and the Himba in Namibia. The Maasai get a lot of tourism now because, sort of people do a Zanzibar beach holiday, Serengeti safari, and then they wanna see the Maasai as part of this trip. But what's happened now is because yeah, Maasai in particular, they're like the famous tribal, like famous African, and Western culture or tourism has really had a major impact on the ability to interact and to almost be human with each other. It's quite devastating to see coming through. Like you said, it was very special for me, put away your camera and just to observe, to cycle past, and just incredibly dressed, beautiful women and very strong men, and the market days and just life unfolding. But there was a barrier that I haven't really met in other places. There was a huge barrier, and I found a lot of the time you'd get to the village and they'd say, "Take a photo, give me money," and tourism has done that. They've People almost go out hunting for this exotic photo of the Maasai to post on their Instagram or to I don't know what to do with, and it almost dehumanizes the Maasai because it's kinda like a human safari, and I really noticed that specifically Maasai and Himba. I almost felt there was such a barrier for me, like, even stopping to chat, I really felt like the Maasai kinda like, "Oh, here's another tourist, what do you want from us? Like, take your photo and just leave," I it was quite sad to see, and that's not everybody. I had some lovely chats, and I met some beautiful villages, and I know other cyclists have been to villages further afield that have been less impacted by tourism, but it's a very controversial, sort of dirty line between tribal traditional cultures and tourism.
It does pose a deeper ethical question on that, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. And actually what you were saying, sort of like these community tours, they're less authentic than going on your own accord, but they're actually much better for the community because it has given them the autonomy and the power and the respect to sort of navigate how they wanna present their culture. That's the more appropriate way to now limit your Western impact, like your touristic impact onto traditional cultures and go with a tour. And yeah, and maybe at the end, you could stay a little later and chat or, yeah, exchange some more money for a more immersive experience. But I think typically with the Maasai and maybe the Himba, not all tribes, but gone are the days where a tourist can come in and be welcomed in and it's not a damaging effect anymore. Yeah, I never noticed this. I would have no idea until I actually was there seeing everything that happened. You see beautiful photos online. You go, wow, it'd be so incredible to go and meet these people and to have these photos like this. But it's,
You've seen the starkness of a different reality, really, haven't you?
yeah, it's a controversial topic, I think.
Something actually, because as you said, travel educates us as well. And there were things that I learnt through your travels. I learnt a lot about Rwanda and how I think they banned plastic bags in
Yeah,
the mid 2000s.
absolutely.
They have like a national holiday every Saturday or something where there's like
Yeah,
some sort of hours of community service or something.
yeah, yeah. It's super cool. Yeah, super cool. And it's, I think one of the biggest things that I thought traveling through Africa, like, I think we talk about Africa as one place. Africa's this, Africa's that. And it's huge, it's humongous. And there's, I think, 53, 54 countries. But really, the difference of just crossing a border, I thought that maybe there'd be similar regions, but crossing a border, each country is incredibly different and influenced by totally different things. It's amazing, and that's been one of the coolest things to spend so much time in Africa to realize how much variation there is, and just country to country. But yeah, you kind of get into Rwanda and you'd be like, "Whoa, where am I?" Like, there's no rubbish anywhere. It's a beautiful country. It's very respectful. It's very calm. I had this like sort of moment. It was like a pedestrian crossing, which doesn't really mean anything in most countries.
Not even in Europe.
Not even in Europe, it's just patterns on the road, and I was sort of stopped waiting for the cars to move, and all the cars stopped, and I, like, fumbled because I was like, "No, is it for me? Like, what's going on?" And I realized they were stopping because that's the crossing, and you're waiting, and, like, everyone follows the rules, and everyone wears helmets on their motorbikes, and all these little details that it's just like, "What is going on? This country's got got some things going on there for the community." It was cool.
They've also got some serious hills in Rwanda.
We've got some serious hills in Rwanda.
You would have felt worked making your way up and
Yeah.
down them.
Like, their nickname is the land of 1,000 hills, so you have to go in a bit prepared. You are gonna go work.
Daggers in the legs with every turn of the pedals.
There's just so many hills, like, you get up one, you're like, "Yes," and then you look over and you can actually see the top of the next 2, but the bottom goes all the way to where you just started. You're like, "Please, why? Why?"
That always breaks my heart on a climb as well. When you're climbing, 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 and then there's like a little downhill, and like there's part of you that's happy for some respite. There's
Yeah,
a bigger part of me that's like, I just climbed all that
yeah,
elevation and now I lost it and I got to climb it again.
yeah. Like,
Is
why
that?
rob me of this? I tried so hard.
Oh, you must be an amazing climber now, though.
I can grind away. Just put some soundtracks on, keep grooving.
Get into the groove of it as well, no doubt.
Yeah.
I can totally imagine. Steph, a relatively new question I've been asking my guests, especially ones who have taken such long travel as you have, is it's hard to talk about the whole of your trip. And, I'm trying really hard in this time and we've covered a lot of stuff, but I know that there's lots that we'll miss. And so knowing that we're going to miss out on so much, what we do have the beauty of is being able to just maybe get an insight into one day of your trip. And I wanted to ask you the impossible question. And I've prepped you, so you've had some time to think about this. It's going to be interesting to see what you come up with. But tell me about a day of your trip. It can be in any country, can be any moment. Describe that day. Take me there.
That's a wild question. It's a good one, but oh my gosh, like to choose from them is insane. And I was tossing up which one to say. I think either the first or the last one are pretty impactful for me. So which one would you rather listen to?
Oh my God. Like there's a sneaky part of me that wants to just give myself the gift of 2 days. Am I allowed to ask that? I guess I am.
You rule it. It's your podcast. Do what you
Do
want.
it. Give me 2 days. All my listeners, you want to hear 2 days? Come on now. If you've made it this far, you're listening to 2 days.
Yeah, if you made it this far, sure.
Exactly. You're in.
You're in. I think the first day, which has surprised me now being after the last day, the first day was the proudest moment on the bike, the proudest day I've ever had on the bike, the very first day. And I was in Gibraltar being like, where am I? I hadn't really even heard of Gibraltar like before I'd booked the flights. This weird mix between Spanish and England. And I had never cycled with cleats. I had never cycled with 4 panniers that were fully loaded. I had my 10-liter shower packed ready for exorbitant showers. I just stood there like a total dork. I had never ridden in like chamois pants. I had no idea of anything. I couldn't fix my bike if it broke. I had never even changed a flat tire, and I was standing over my bike going, "Holy, like this is it." And I cycled away like super shaky. I was zigzagging across the street. I actually started on the left side, which is Gibraltar, but then you swap to the right, and I there was no one. It was early in the morning, and I just stayed on the left. And I had driven completely on the wrong side of the road, straight up, made all the mistakes. Was so unfit and soft from working night shifts and like working flat out in London, just smushing biscuits in my mouth to stay awake. So was wildly unfit. I knew nothing. And I took off, and then about 2 minutes in, I was, breathing really hard. It's totally flat, and I go, "Oh my god, I don't even know if I like cycling." Like, I hadn't even thought about it ever. What if I hate cycling? Like, I've just blown up my life, I've quit my job, I've sold everything, invested in this, and I don't even know if I like this damn sport. And,
That's hilarious.
I know, it was like, "Oh god, I should have thought about this." And it was so hard, but I was just beaming head to toe with pride. I couldn't believe it. I was freaking doing it. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what the hell happened. I was freaking on this adventure, and whatever happened from here, at least I tried. At least I gave this all my effort, a red hot go, and I was here sweating it out, zigzagging down the wrong side of the road, stuck to my pedals that I didn't know how to get out of.
Like literally the example of all the gear, no idea. But my gosh, you have so much of an idea now. I love this story. All the virtual high fives, and my gosh, I'm so thankful that even whether you or not you like cycling or not, I don't know, but my gosh, I'm so glad you kept at it.
Me too, me too, and it was incredible. I can't stop smiling when I think of that day. It was really to think of how far I've come and all the knowledge and maybe the confidence and understanding, but the first day was just this huge literally a huge road lay ahead of me, and, it was unbelievable. I've never been so proud of myself than that very first
Oh, I feel proud for you.
Thank you.
Take me to the next day then. Take me to your next. Did you say it was the first day or the last day?
The
Wow.
final
Oh, it's like the bookend of your trip.
bookend, yeah.
What was that like? Tell me about it.
Yeah, so the last day was really interesting. It was like I had made it, right? I had made it to Cape Town. This was kind of a ceremonial day to the Cape of Good Hope, the very tippity tip, the southwestern tip of Africa. And it was really no pressure. Like, I think the first day was all the pressure of like, you've just blown up your life, you've got to achieve something. And the last day was the exact opposite. It was like, I know I've got this in the bag. I know everything. I could fix anything essentially that could go wrong on this thing. I know exactly what I need. I know what I don't need. All the confidence and just the celebration. I had made it. I had made this huge journey, and it was just a cycle for me. It was just for enjoyment. And I was so lucky. I had met just the most incredible people along the way in South Africa, and a whole group of them came to join me for my last day, and it was just beautiful. I had one other cyclotourist, Jonah, who's in Africa still, and the rest were all women doing total badass things just in their own lives, just super, super
Woo!
cool, kindred spirits. It was such a femi power. And, they were just like, "Of course we're coming. Of course we're coming to celebrate your last day." And we just had the most fun. It was perfect weather, sunshine, no wind. And I just thought, like, how could I think there was probably 8 of us or something. Like, how could there be 8 people that would just casually ride a 120-kilometer day just to celebrate? And it was just beautiful. It was super supportive, super loving, and this whole beautiful celebration of like I started with nothing and with no one and with no knowledge, and here I am at the end, full of friends, full of experiences, full of knowledge. It was also, yeah, just an amazing day full of pride and happiness and a huge celebration of where this trip's led. It was unreal. Incredible bookends.
Wow. And just such a juxtaposition to so total polar opposite to that first day. The first day setting off, no clue, no idea what's ahead of you,
Yeah,
uncertainty, not even sure if you're going to like the thing. Last day, all the clues, all the experience, all the insights, all the knowledge,
yeah,
and your own crew.
yeah.
just celebrating the moment with you. What an experience. Wow.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I couldn't have asked her, yeah, better days, either one.
Brilliant. Oh my gosh, I love it. And those moments are with you forever as well.
Yeah, they
I
are.
guess the other thing, I've used the word transformational a few times because I feel these trips can only be that. Like, you can't take a trip like this
Yeah.
and it not to change you. You know, when something happens slowly but surely, you don't sort of notice the change, sort of thing. But do you ever reflect back? That was an example of first day, last day, so different. But just even internally, the differences in you as well and how this journey has shaped you.
Yeah, it's a big question. That's a huge one, and it's gonna take a lot because 'cause I've only really recently finished, so it's gonna take a lot to sort of remember who I was just a couple of years ago because, I kind of just feel like me now, but for sure I was different. Maybe the biggest thing that I've learned, and this is gonna probably sound very cliché, but everything works out, and I remember at the beginning of the trip being like, "But what if this happens? But what about this? And what will I do if this go and what will I go and what will I do?" And I can still find sort of when a curveball hits and you start to, like, reel off, like, "What will I do? What do I do?" But every single thing has always worked out. It just works out, like, whether it's a path that you were hoping or something completely different, it works out. You find a way, you pivot or adapt or improvise or something random comes along, someone reaches a hand out and you follow it, and I think being aware that it'll work out, you become very open to opportunities and you start to listen like, "Oh, yeah, I could go do that," or, "Yeah, that might be an option," or, "Yeah, maybe I should do this." So, I think I'm much more relaxed in just where life's gonna take me. I think it'll work out, and I know it. That's a fact, it'll work out. I don't know how, but that's a very cool feeling to know for certain.
It's a very grounding feeling too. And
Yeah.
it's experience that's helped you learn that. It's something you've learned. It's not something that you just read somewhere and now you know.
Yeah, exactly, and it's been a long learning curve, like the first time the bike broke or the first time I got flat tires or the first time something didn't happen, you go, "Oh my gosh, this is it, this is the end," and it never is. It never is. You just keep moving slowly, you'll get there.
You say the end. I mean, it's the end of this chapter. I know for certain, Steph, just chatting with you, this is definitely not the end of you traveling in this manner.
No.
Certainly, there's going to be people, there's going to be new fans that have just been introduced to you in this conversation. People are going to want to get on board. How can they follow along with the future adventures as well as scrolling through the past ones? What's the best way for them to find you out there on the socials?
Yeah, I'm just mainly on Instagram, so it's Steph Devery, just on Insta, and then I've got a website as well, so stephdevery.com. Just kept it pretty easy.
Simple is good. And listeners, I'll be providing links to those in the show notes for you as well. So it'll be super easy. Just go into your pod player, give it a click, and you'll be able to follow along there as well. Oh my gosh, Steph, I know personally I could speak to you for days probably, but you've been so kind giving us so much of your time. So I am going to wrap this up, sadly. I've got 3 questions that I'm going to wrap it up with. You probably already know them. The first one is music related. As a guest of Seek Travel Ride, you now get to choose a song that's going to go on the Seek Travel Ride playlist. It's available now in Spotify and on Apple Music. And what I asked my guests is if you could have a song that you would use as the soundtrack to your adventure, what would that song be? What's your song?
Ooh. This one might be cliche, so tell me if it's already in the playlist, but "Send Me on My Way."
Oh, it's not.
You know the classic Matilda tune?
Yeah. Send me on my way.
Is that on the playlist?
No, it's not, but it is now.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a banger. That always gets me in a good mood, get rolling.
Did you listen to that a few times on your ride?
Oh, yeah. I'm probably, like Spotify Wrapped Up, I'm probably top 1% for sure.
Lovely. Send me on. Hang on, who's the artist that writes that?
Rusted Root, not so famous. Might have been a one-hit wonder.
Maybe. I definitely know the song though. Anyway, now
Yeah.
it's there. It's such an eclectic mix. The cool thing for me is as the host, I know who's chosen the songs. I mean, true fans will as well, but I love it. I put it on. It's so random.
Yeah, cool, I'm gonna have a listen to it.
But what's cool is like I go on the adventures that my guests have gone when I hear the song and I put myself, oh, I wonder where they were when they were listening to this and bopping away. And yeah, it's cool. I'm happy with it. I'm happy. Actually, it's a shout out to Mackenzie Barney because it was when I interviewed you, Mackenzie, that this playlist came to life. So we talked music and then you said, make a playlist. I'm like, Hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, Steph, final two questions. The first one,
Okay.
you're going to be riding your bike all day and you have a choice. Are you going to be riding it perpetually up a climb, a never ending climb,
Oh,
or perpetually into a never ending headwind? What are you going to choose?
I'm gonna choose a climb. It's not a yeah, it's not such a hard question for me. The bloody headwind is so it feels too personal. It's so demoralizing. It feels like the Mother Nature is solely against you. That's a hard one.
And I imagine you would have had, oh gosh, you would have had days worth of headwinds, no doubt, right?
Days, days and days of very flat landscapes with an angry headwind, and then the next week, no headwind, you know? Like, it's just I can't handle it.
Ever a tailwind? It never feels like there's a tailwind, but hopefully you had some tailwind moments.
Yeah, there were some tail moments. There would have been. But the climb, at least that's just the environment, you know? I can accept that more.
Yeah. I picture landscapes like sandy landscapes. So, you know, we were talking about Saudi. I picture that as being a windy place. Well, maybe Namibia, like in the desert, you know, that open scape. Were they windy places as well?
Yeah, they can be. They can be, absolutely. Yeah, I had some pretty vicious wind in Namibia. Saudi, I might have just deleted the wind from my mind. I have to go back from the notes, but I don't remember it being too crazy. But definitely the potential, very wide open spaces.
I also picture that there are a couple of places where you perpetually have sand in your tent.
Yeah, it's not even just in your tent, it's in your ears, in your eyelashes, in your teeth, just everywhere, and all your food's crunchy.
As I said, a proper immersive experience.
Yeah.
All right, Steph. Final question for someone who's traveled solo for so long. This will be interesting to see what you answer. You're going to be riding your bike. It's just 4 hours, but you have the choice to ride 4 hours on your own or 4 hours with other people. Which one are you going to choose?
I'm gonna ride with other people. I'm ready for a chat. Yeah, yeah, I've had the space, or at least right now, maybe, like, when I go back into society or stay in a city for a little while, I'd probably choose alone. But at the moment, I've really had the space and the time to think a lot of the things that yeah, I have very clear mind at the moment. So yeah, I'd like to hear other people's stories, see what's going on in them.
Well, I know you've come to my neck of the woods in the Pyrenees before. If you ever feel like coming again and you want 4 hours with someone to ride up, maybe
Absolutely.
not a constant climb, but we do have climbs.
Yes, some beautiful ones.
Totally set a future date together. Whenever you want to arrive, Steph, you're always going to be
Oh,
welcome.
that would be wonderful.
Steph Devery, wow. What a conversation we've just had. Just skirting on just some of the details of this mega, mega trip of yours. When you were telling me about the story of that very first day and you said something, you said you felt proud.
Yeah.
I really hope that pride is something that you felt on each and every one of those days. You should be so overwhelmingly proud of yourself, Steph.
Oh,
2 years, 7 months, 21,500 kilometers, 200,000 meters plus of climbing,
it's
40 countries,
a big one.
setbacks, highlights, an overwhelming trip summed up with one word of kindness. Steph Devery, if I was going to use another word, I would say inspirational.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so, so much for sharing your story and experiences here on Seek Travel Ride.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Bella. It was amazing.
Well, I am absolutely buzzing having just chatted there with Steph and having her take me through that journey. Wow, what a trip she's had. And for certain, there is definitely so much more to come as well. Thank you so much, Steph, for sharing your story with us. And I think what excites me so much is that I know that when I get to share stories like Steph's on the show, that people are going to listen to it and be inspired to take their own little trip there as well. And I am just bubbling with enthusiasm with a healthy hint of wanderlust as well, knowing that people are going to be setting off on their own adventures. And when we do pack our panniers, let's hope that we pack up that wisdom that Steph left us with, that wisdom of it will all work out. It will be okay. Steph left Gibraltar with not much of an idea, and she's gotten all the way down to the very tip of South Africa there. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to record with people like Steph and bring their stories and experiences to you, my listeners, here on the show. The podcast is now over a year old. If you're a brand new listener, I encourage you to follow us in your podcast player and check out some of the back catalogue, because the chances are there's more than one guest which is going to be helping to inspire you for your next bicycle adventure as well. Until the next episode, my name's Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening.